And welcome back to Moving Conversations. I'm Brian Ritchie. Well, joining me as always is Nora St. John. How you doing today, Nora?
Delightful, Brian. Absolutely delightful. It's a little rainy over here, but that's a good thing for winter in California.
Yeah. I hear you guys are getting, what are they calling it? The Pineapple Express or
Yeah,
something like that. I heard
yeah.
that this morning. A client told me the Pineapple Express is coming into California. I said, excuse
Which
me, what?
basically means it's a warm storm, and the problem that we have with that is that it melts the snow. So the
Yeah.
snow level rises way up in the mountains, and basically it comes down as water. And the problem with water is water doesn't store; it just like flows right through to the ocean eventually.
Mm-hmm.
And we'd rather have snow up there to store the water essentially until it melts in the spring.
Well, that
But
makes
it's not
sense.
it's not been too bad. It's just it's wet. It's fine. It's easy.
It's what? It's fine. Good. Well, for those listening at home, this is our first week that we're trying out a new platform. So we are going to be available for both audio and video. Will be available on our YouTube channel. So I will post the links to that on all of our social media and whatnot. And it'll be actually, if you go to the whatever you want to call it, whether it be Apple or wherever you get this from, if you go into the bio for this week's edition, you're going to see that there's going to be an extra link. You click on that, it'll take you over to the YouTube channel as well. So if you want to actually see us, you can. But as Nora said, neither of us were really ready for prime time here. So you got what you got. You got me straight off the gym floor. It's just this is what it is. So we weren't really ready for this, but we decided to try something a little different. So this is what we're going to be doing.
All right. Yep.
All
See how it
right.
goes.
Yeah, we're going to have some fun. So today we are going to be talking about recovery.
Mm-hmm.
This is something that's been probably the last 4 or 5 years, more and more people have been talking about a lot more about recovery, a lot more about different techniques. I think ever since, probably what would you say? Trigger Point was probably the first major foam roller company to start really pushing the whole recovery issue. Were they? Do you think they were kind of the first?
I would say that's the first time I really heard about it as a general thing in fitness, for sure. I mean,
Yeah,
foam rolling was in PT land. Pilates has been doing some versions of foam rolling for a long
sure,
time, but I would say it really didn't hit the mainstream until probably Trigger Point, which is like what 10 years ago, something like that.
something like that. Yeah,
I
they
mean, I don't
sort
know,
of.
sometime in the last decade or a little more, something like that.
Yeah, and you're right. We've been using it in my facility for man as far long as I've been in practice. We've been
Right.
using it so in medical exercise as well as physical therapy and everything else because it works. But
Yes.
they were the first to really bring it to the fitness world as a tool for recovery. And within a few years, I started seeing it, before basketball
Everywhere.
games, you'd see, the
Everywhere.
athletes, rolling their quads, rolling their hamstrings and things like that. So I always
Yes.
thought, oh, that was interesting how quickly people took to it.
Well, I want to actually expand that idea of recovery because I
Oh,
would say
yeah.
that that brought the idea of recovery even into
Yes.
the idea of fitness, right? Because for a long time, fitness was basically you work out and then you're sore and you get over it. I mean that's a little bit cruel or blunt, but that's kind of how it was. And I
Hmm.
feel like the role of recovery and the role of rest and myofascial release work and ice and all kinds of things has really come to the fore as people are
Yep.
starting to figure out, how do I keep going? How do I get stronger without causing more damage? How did all that work? And I think this also goes really well with our discussion of the itises.
Hmm.
Because so often the
Absolutely.
itises happen because we're not allowing ourselves to recover. And I think
Hmm.
that's a really important just way to think about it.
Well, way back when I was doing a lot more heavy lifting and training and things like that, you always had, they never called it your recovery day. They called it just your rest day. So you'd work like
Right.
3 days on, 1 day off, or 5 days on, 1 day off, whatever it was for your specific style of training, whether it be cardiovascular, strength, power, whatever it was, you had your off day.
Hmm.
And now it seems like there's not only an off day, but also your active recovery day.
Active recovery being the key words there, right?
Exactly. So
Not
it's
just
not just
not
you
doing
sitting on the
something, but
couch doing
doing
nothing.
something.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Exactly. It's
Yeah.
actually moving or doing something, and it can be beneficial. Today was sort of my active recovery day. So I got in
Hmm.
here at by 4:30 and did my cardio, and then stretching, foam rolling, did all that sort of thing that, keeps my body moving, go through range of motion, all of that sort of thing. And it feels good, but I wasn't going to be lifting. I wasn't going to be doing anything strenuous. It was more of that active recovery. So let's talk about recovery and the different styles and types and things like that, and sort of break it down a little bit and the reasons for it.
So I'm going to actually start with sleep.
Oh, okay.
We start with like the
That's
very
my favorite
of recovery. Just because physiologically, a lot of times what happens, especially when we're working out, especially if you're increasing your efforts or you're trying to do more than you were doing or going longer mileage or whatever, things get sore, right? You go beyond your tissue's tolerance for that particular thing. It hasn't acclimatized to it or accommodated
Yep.
to it, and it causes some little micro damage in the process. That's just what happens. And sleep is the time, if you have a good sleep, and that's important here. If you have a good sleep and you have good REM cycles and all that stuff, that's the time when your body recovers. That's about the time when your body does the repair process.
Mm-hmm.
So they sometimes talk about physiologically that during the day, we are breaking stuff down. And during the nighttime, we are doing our rebuilding. So whether we're healing little tears or, repairing damage or whatever, that's what happens when we sleep or when we rest, but particularly when we sleep.
What's interesting about that is when we're working with clients who are a little bit older, they're going to be the first to tell you they don't sleep as well as they used to.
Yep.
Men especially get up multiple times during the night to have to use the restroom. There are a lot of men who have to use, or a lot of people, I find mostly with my populations, a lot of my men have to use a CPAP now because they weren't getting restful sleep.
Right, exactly.
So if they're not getting that truly restful, regenerative rest, then, they weren't really recovering. It wasn't going to be a good amount of, that REM sleep for them to properly recover.
And that's what I find too with a lot of my chronic pain patients of whatever kind, whether it's low back pain or it's nerve pain or it's autoimmune issues, chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia. Almost all of those circumstances have a component of poor sleep as part of that. And very often when I'm working with the MDs on this, they'll really work on the sleep piece. And again, drugs to help you sleep are not the best thing, but sometimes just making people sleep can help some of those symptoms as well. So I think sleeping is just the first step of recovery, ideally, right? If it's an effective sleep and you're getting good restful time.
And I think most people, forgive the pun, but sleep on this, issue because they don't think about sleep being something that can help them get out of pain or can help them with their recovery and healing process. I've had multiple surgeries, and let me tell you, sleep is one of the best things you can do for your body to actually recover. My dad was just telling me that his doctor is really harping on him to get on a CPAP machine because he's not getting good restorative sleep, and his heart's working too hard throughout the night because he's constantly being woken up, and he needs to, sleep and sleep well. And CPAPs are no fun. Let's face it. They're not fun at all. I had to use one, when I was heavier, and it's not fun whatsoever. But for you to get that good sleep, if you can get used to the machine, it can really help people.
Yeah, exactly. So sleep is just step one of recovery for me.
Yep.
And not that people can always manage their sleep, or there's oftentimes issues where somebody just doesn't sleep well and maybe never has, and that's just part of their cycle, and they try various things and they may or may not work. But that's step one, is like, just do what you can to emphasize sleep as step one of recovery.
And keep something in mind when we talk about sleep. Different people are going to have different needs when they sleep.
Absolutely. It's
Some
not
people
like 8 hours in bed. It may be 5 hours for you. It may be 6 hours for you. Maybe 10 hours for you.
Exactly.
Right? Everybody's different. And I don't make any.
Exactly. And, they also say, you can't catch up on weekends and all of this kind of stuff. I'm hoping that's not true, because I'm someone who doesn't get enough sleep, because I'm up by 4 a.m. every morning, during the week. I'm here in the office by 4:30, 4:45, so I can do my workout, get my day started, and my first client's coming in 6:30 in the morning. So, that's the lifestyle that we choose with who we work with. And people
Yeah.
who work need to come in early. So that's something we think about. So on weekends, I do sleep for 8, 9 hours. And I'm still tired afterwards a little bit, but it does help get me back into that swing of things again.
Yeah.
And so I do tell people, when you can, get the sleep you can, because it will help. It can help. Even if you can't tonight, see if you can tomorrow. A client of mine just came back from Miami, where he's from, and he was exhausted. He was there for work, but it's also his hometown. So he's showing people around, and he's probably doing a little too much partying and, a little more of that than he was used to. So he didn't sleep very much. So he's exhausted. But he said he slept 7 hours last night. He said, "Oh my gosh, I feel so rejuvenated." He said, "I'm still tired, but at least I feel rejuvenated." And I
Yeah.
will get back on the fact that some people don't need as much and
Yep.
some people will need more. So if you can find what works for you and that makes you feel best, hone in on that and make that sort of your goal.
Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's one thing, right?
Number one.
Another kind of active recovery is movement-based recovery,
Yes.
right? Whether it's foam rolling, whether it's stretching, whether it's doing some kind of mobility work, like some light, like I often use sort of my Tai Chi versions of things, like gentle movement. Sometimes I'll even use a light Pilates workout as a recovery workout, just to kind of loosen up the joints, get the blood going, but not stress anything. Right. So sometimes a movement-based recovery is like you're stimulating some things, because even foam rolling takes a bit of work. If you're trying to do, for example, rolling out your quads and you're in basically an elbow plank, right? That's some work to move through that. So you're using some energy, but you're not necessarily using more energy than you easily can manage, right?
Yeah. And I've talked to groups before and said, look, depending on where your athletic prowess is, depending on where your fitness level is, a light Pilates or a yoga class may be recovery for you. If you're doing heavy lifting, if you're doing something that is fairly intense, some people do high interval, training work. Some people will do more power training or whatever. And for them, doing something like a yoga class or a Pilates class may be perfect for a recovery because it's gentle on their system. They don't feel as stressed out. Their neurologic system isn't as stressed. And I think that can really help out. I worked at a gym in Hawaii that was owned by a World's Strongest Man competitor, Ode Haugen. And I would train in the same room as him. And he would sometimes train for about 7 to 10 minutes, and that was the whole workout. And I'm there for 90 minutes or plus because I'm doing everything. And, and I'm watching him thinking, what is he doing? He's like doing only 2 exercises. And yes, he's maxing out. And I talked to him afterwards and he said, neurologically, that's all my system could handle today. So for him, it was more the neurologic side. So if he got on a bike afterwards or yoga or something like that, that was gentle to his neurologic system, and he didn't have to think, he didn't have to put that much focus and effort and intensity into, it would be more of a recovery for him than the workouts that he's accustomed to. So I think everybody's fitness level needs to be thought of in this way as well. That's some of us who train clients who are older and have a very, very gentle workout. Yoga class may be pretty intense for them.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely. Yeah. It's choosing your recovery.
Bingo.
Right. And so as you're mentioning that, I'm really thinking about, like we always talk about, the customization of what we're trying to do. Right. That for some clients, I think of my dancer clients. Dancers typically will often be taking class every day or 5 or 6 days a week, working fairly intensely. And then they may have rehearsals on top of that, and, et cetera. Or a professional athlete, same kind of thing. They may be doing 1 or 2 workouts a day during their season. So that's one version. The other version is people who, are just doing more than they're used to. Maybe They usually walk like 3 days a week, and now they've been hiking on the weekends, or they're a bunch of people in town, so doing a lot more workout, or they're riding their bikes more or something. And that's a different situation, right? That they may just need to rest. They may need to just do some gentle stretching. Just, maybe their calves have gotten really tight or their quads have gotten tight because they've been biking, and they just need to make sure that in the days in between that whatever they're doing, that they stretch those areas out, that they get some blood circulation and some movement going in that area just to help it recover.
Yeah. I would also say that, man, I'm going back into the late 80s, early 90s. The word cross training became very popular.
Mm-hmm.
And if you think about it, for someone who is, or I'm thinking a lot of the teens that train around here, Washington, D.C. area, they do travel. They're like one sport wonders. And that's all they focus
Yes.
on, lacrosse or soccer or baseball or hockey, whatever it is. But that's year round. That's their focus. And they do camps for this and all of this kind of stuff. So for them, a recovery might be some kind of cross training that's lighter. It's not on the same intensity level, but just something that's different, that's not going to be the same stress. I'm thinking of like a hockey player who's on the ice, and that's a lot of lateral work, a lot of gluteus medius, a lot of, twisting, turning, all of that. That's something that's a little more gentle on the system, but it's still a workout, may be a good amount of recovery for that person, especially for a younger person who tends to recover faster anyway.
Like it may be 20 minutes on the stationary bike.
It may be something
like
as easy as that.
Repetitive sagittal motion that isn't going to stress the hips in the same way. It'll get some circulation going, get some blood flow and get the heart rate up, but not necessarily stress the joints or stress the tissues particularly.
Yeah, exactly. And for our clients who are demon tennis players and might want to go and do, these camps and things like that, and now they're practicing hours and hours a day, doing something light, like you said, stationary bike, walking on the treadmill, going out walking with a friend. But something that also take a look at what they're straining and stressing during their workout. So for someone doing tennis, what are they going to be? Their forearms. That's the stuff that's going to really be taking a beating in shoulders. So resting that, but still moving the other areas can be very beneficial.
So this is like this simple version of recovery. This is just like, what does my body feel like it needs? Because again, recovery is not generally doing nothing. It can be, right? Sleep, it can be, or it can be really genuinely resting and not doing something. But oftentimes, and I think that's where active recovery, that the idea of putting recovery into your workout process, as opposed to it being the thing that you don't do, right? Well, I'm not working out, so then I'm recovering. That's not really what we're looking at here. What we're trying to have you think about is, if I'm doing this much stuff, what do I need to do to keep my body in shape to keep going in that direction? So it may be rest. It may be rest from the stressful activity they're doing. Like in your case in tennis, maybe you're not going to do any upper body work that day, or maybe you're just going to do some light stretching. Stretch out the quads, or stretch out the shoulders, stretch out the wrist to give yourself some mobility work. So it might be something really simple like that. And that's just that way to think about that. It's like, how do you take recovery and not have it just be do nothing, but have it be do something that is beneficial, keeps things moving, maybe keeps some mobility going, but doesn't stress the areas that are overworked.
Right. And I think we've talked about this a couple times already, but let's focus a little bit more on it, is mobility work. Because I find that in and of itself can be very, very good. And we did an episode weeks and weeks and weeks ago on the difference between flexibility and mobility. Well, mobility is a lot more in motion. It's not just a static hold. It's not just a hamstring stretch where you're pulling it in and holding it and then switching sides, but maybe something that's going to be more on the active side. And I love doing Pilates for that, because you can be stretching out your hamstrings with legs and straps on the reformer and getting a great, hamstring stretch, and you can take the resistance down so it's not an intense workout, but you get that mobility in the hips, in the hamstring, in the quads. All of that. I mean, leg stretch on the reformer is one of my favorite for my hip flexors, because they get tight. I do that. I feel fantastic afterwards. And again, it's part of my mobility day. It's part of my recovery day.
Right. It's actively moving through a range of motion, but not stressing things.
Yep.
right? Not pushing so hard that you're really feeling that stress or strain, and
Yep.
not just moving through it. And it gets the circulation going, it gets the joint nice and lubricated, it gets things kind of moving forward.
Yeah.
So mobility is certainly part of recovery. And that's something where, depending on what you do, whatever your activities are, what does need to stretch? What do you need to maintain mobility in? For example, I tap dance like 2 or 3 times a week at this point. So my calves, for good reason, get a little bit tight.
A little bit.
And so my recovery is basically doing some calf stretching. And I don't do it static. I do it kind of mobile. I do some heel raises, and then I do some calf stretching, and I move in and out of it. And that's what I need to do to be able to maintain my mobility so that I don't start to seize up and get tight and really start to get stressed and strained.
Yeah. And I think that's a great way to look at it, is what for your body, what you need to work on. Just like for me, I said my hip flexors,
Yep.
For years, I've been trying to work on my hips to get them internally and externally rotating better, because men tend to get a little tighter as we get older. So that was one of the things I did this morning. Just gentle mobility, putting my body through those ranges of motion, not pushing. That I really want to harp on that here. Don't push, because I'm not trying to stress my body. I'm just trying to use that range of motion. And what I tell clients with this is, my clients who have no sense of rhythm whatsoever always laugh at me, but think of it like a dance. Think of it as flowing. Think of it as more of that gentle movement. Even if we're just trying to get some rotation in the body, it's just that, and I'll say, be more gentle, get more flowing, and sometimes, some people can dance and some people we know can't, but they get that in their head and they're like, oh, and they can feel that it's a lot more gentle. And for me, I sort of push that, be gentle to your body. We're trying to just get it to relax. We're just trying to get that range of motion going. And something that I find, hip rotation in general, but hip rotation, thoracic rotation are big ones that
I do a lot of
want them to
shoulder work
do.
too. Need a lot of rotation of the shoulders, just rotation of shoulders, spinal mobility of all different kinds, hip mobility. Those things are often where I really focus in terms of mobility work, is just, again, and rotation is fabulous. I do it just an easy standing rotation exercise, wide leg, like a horse stance, wide leg, bend the knees, and just rotate, just twist, right, side to side. If it doesn't make you dizzy, it gets all the joints going, gets everything warmed up, gets a circulation happening, but doesn't stress anything.
Exactly.
Now, a couple other things is myofascial release, right? Which is another kind of mobility work in a way, and a way to stimulate the tissues and allow them often to rehydrate and to get nourished through the pressure of the roller or the ball or whatever other tool you're using, right? So that's another way to work on recovery. If you think about somebody who's like, I was just working with a team in training group that was doing bicycle riding, right? Team in training, as many of you know, is, they train people to do marathons and long bike rides and that kind of thing. And I would go and I would do a little a roller workout with them, after their bike ride. And, looking at quads for them, looking at hamstrings, looking at the glutes, looking at the upper back, looking at opening up the chest. And it would be, I teach them about a 10-minute recovery process on the roller, rolling out the hamstrings, rolling out the quads, rolling out the glutes, rolling out the calves. And not a big one, not heavy, not stressful, but just going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, about 6 exercises or so. And it's like, oh, okay, whew. It just moves some of it increases circulation of the tissues so they can recover more quickly from the stress they've been under. Because again, if you've just taken a 40 or 50 or 60 mile bike ride in Sacramento heat in August, you're going to feel something, right? You're going to get lactic acid buildup. And it just helps to calm all that down. And then, you teach it to them, and then they do it. And the days they're not biking, or right after they get off their bike, they'll do that. And they find it just makes them feel a whole lot better later that day and the next day.
Yeah. I had a friend who, back in Hawaii, we had the Honolulu Marathon. And believe it or not, that was a huge tourist event. So we would have a lot of Japanese come in to run the race. She specialized in teaching them a special stretching and mobility workout before the event. And she charged a lot of money. It would be in this park with 150 people, charging them like $100 a pop, and put them through 15 to 30 minutes worth of movement activity just to get their bodies prepared for the race. And I was thinking, they need this. They absolutely need this. And another part of me is thinking, that's just genius. From a business standpoint, that's just genius.
That was brilliant.
I was like, you made like 3 months worth of salary. She goes, oh yeah. She said, that's my payday for the year. And she'd run with them. She was a triathlete. So she'd run with them because that was just a workout for her. But yeah, she said, oh yeah, I make all, a good portion of my money for the year. We were in the University of Hawaii together, and it's great.
Nice.
But what you were saying, working with these athletes, is something that I want to zero in on a little bit. A lot of our clients, if you tell a client, okay, I want you to do mobility work, but you don't give them specifics, or you say, I want you to use this as your recovery day, but you don't give them specifics, they're not going to do anything. They're going to sit down. They're going to say, well, I'm recovering watching TV.
This is true. This is true with clients in any situation.
Yes, right? Absolutely.
I mean, I don't know. It's like I've worked with a lot of clients over a lot of years, and you have to be specific.
Yeah.
And I literally am like, I try to be very sensitive to what their environment's like, when they might do this, what they might have available at that time.
Yeah.
Right. Like I've got some clients who are pretty dedicated athletes, and they'll, they bike a certain number of miles every day or whatever, or several times a week, or they run. And I'm like, okay, so what I'm going to have you do is, before you start, I'm going to give you 3 things to do.
Yep.
These 3 things before you hop on your bike or before you go out for your run, right? Just these 3 things. When you get home, you're going to do these 3 things.
Yep.
And I try to keep it to something that's easy. It's something that they can do, like in both those circumstances, something they can do standing.
Yep.
Right. I'm not going to give them something to get down on the ground, because these guys are probably going to be outside. There might be grass, there might be dirt, who knows, but they're not going to get down on the ground and do a stretch. So how do I figure out what they can do there that's going to be helpful for them? Some standing mobility work. Put your foot up on a curb and do a nice little hamstring stretch, or bring your leg back and stretch out your calves, or whatever it is. But trying to be sensitive to what their circumstances are. Some of my other clients, thinking about my dancers and things, it's like, okay, get down on the floor, get your foam roller out, do this and this and this. And being sensitive to what is going to work for that client.
Yes.
And I do aim for no more than 10 minutes, because it's really hard to make an excuse for not doing something for 10 minutes.
Compliance is always an issue with any client.
Always. Yeah.
Always an issue. And consistency.
Mm-hmm.
My golfers, my golfers and my tennis players, they're the ones that I focus on the most, because they're the ones that need to do something before they go out. Just imagine how hard and how fast you're swinging a golf club. It's a ballistic movement.
Yeah.
And you're really asking yourself to load up a lot of tension, and a lot of power, give it everything you got. And then your body basically has to catch it on the other side. So you're bringing yourself out in one direction over and over and over again. So for them, I always say, okay, here's the 3 things I want you to do before you ever, pick up a club, and I teach them, we get through some thoracic rotation, some hip movement, some hip mobility. If they need hamstrings, if they need low back, whatever their specifics are. But again, I limit it to about 3 things. I use my best bang for your buck sort of thought. Okay, what 3 things can they do? And for some of them, I mean, you and I, my 7-way hip, a lot of clients who need that, I say, before you leave the house, I want you doing that. Spend 5 minutes, do those 7 on each side, even if it's only 5 repetitions, but warm the area up. Then here, right when you park your car, or your SUV, you do these things before you get out on the course, before you go and swing a club. And almost all of them say they feel better, they're hitting it better, they're more consistent. And if you can get a golfer to have a better golf game, they'll do it every time. And that's how I get them to be compliant and consistent. And you know what? They do. you know?
Well, exactly, and that's the motivation, right? You're creating the motivation,
Yes.
and you're proving that it works, right? They
Yep.
feel that it works, and if it works, they're happy to do it. Particularly golf. I mean, you think about golf and tennis. These are generally activities that are done by people who, like, they certainly be older, younger people doing it, but a lot of times it's not younger people doing it, right?
Yep.
It's like my 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90-year-olds who are oftentimes engaged in those activities. And, recovery, I think part of why recovery has become a thing is because recovery also, as you get older, recovery is more necessary,
Yes.
right? I mean, it just is. I know. I was teaching at a university out here to a group of dancers. I was teaching a dance kinesiology class, essentially. And it was hilarious because I think the oldest person in the class was 26. And we were talking about recovery, talking exactly about that. And the 26-year-old said, yeah, you guys, you can't believe how long it takes me to recover now, because everybody else was like 20, 19, 20, 21. So I used to get over something in like a day. Now it takes me 3 days. At
Yeah.
this point, I'm in my mid 40s. I'm like, yeah, just wait,
Just wait.
That doesn't necessarily get better. Yes, we can do our best to maintain our bodies, but that just takes longer. So absolutely, so with older folks, you gotta take that into account, and that's also really
Yes.
where active recovery is much more important as people get a little bit older and really need that time. Their tissues do not heal as quick, they don't recover as fast, and they need to give themselves time to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you may even want to put this into part of their workout,
Exactly. Yeah.
because
Start it or end it or put it in the middle, or just have them review it regularly too. Get very familiar
yes,
with it, so it's almost automatic.
exactly. And when it becomes automatic, then there's no excuse.
Yeah,
Then
exactly.
there's really no excuse. So absolutely, I like that. I like that. But giving them very specific workout is the thing that I'm
Mhm.
going to recommend to everybody for their recovery days. And it can be, like you said, 10 minutes. It doesn't have to be long. You're going to foam roll, you're going to do this. I've often had clients say, the workout you gave me is about 45 minutes long. And I'm like, really? And I'll say, I can do it in 7 because I do it.
So what are
And
you
they,
doing?
so I say, so walk me through this. And then
Yeah.
they'll show me on the foam roller, because I said, okay, you're doing your foam roller for your IT band and your glute or your quad, whatever it is. And I say, okay, it should be about 3 minutes on each side, each leg. Why is it taking you 20 minutes? Oh, well, I'm watching TV. I said, okay, so don't blame me if you're getting distracted.
Right.
So I have to sometimes hone it in so that they realize that it's not that much, that
Mhm.
it's, I usually, if I'm going to give them any exercises for home, if it's foam roller work or something, I pick 2 to 3 areas, and I have them do, 2 or 3 spots in each of those just so that they can get that recovery. If it's the IT band, I say pick 3 spots. You don't have to
Yeah.
work the whole thing because, that may take too long. If it's calves, I want you to work at the junction point between the Achilles tendon and the muscle. I want you to do straight. I want you to do side. I want you to do medial and lateral and hit those. If you give them specifics and give them no more than 2 or 3, spots on each muscle or each fascial group, whatever you want to call it, then there's no excuse. And they also have that guide, that roadmap that they feel.
Yes.
I mean, we talked last week where we said, some people need it for even just rolling the bottom of their feet. If you have a
Yes.
roadmap, it actually does help. It gives them that specific, I'm doing this, and then they feel successful.
And they know they're doing the right thing. Clients
Yeah.
so often are like, well, they don't want to do something because they're afraid they're going to do it wrong. I mean, that's
Yeah.
not an uncommon thing. And so it's like, no, this is exactly what you're supposed to do. This is a good thing to do. This will help you, and you're doing it right. Like that, all of that is just really important, really.
Yeah.
So in terms of foam rolling, a couple thoughts for foam rolling, because we mentioned it a bit at different times and different things. It is a key part of active recovery. It is one of the
Yes.
key elements of active recovery, or one of the things to use. So that means, you have to be somewhere where you can roll. So typically
Yep.
this is done at home on a floor of some kind, as opposed to out in nature, although I have seen it done on lawns and various things. And several things about that. One is, remember, we're hydrating and dehydrating the tissues, right? So you're basically pushing water
Yes.
out, like you're squeezing out a sponge, and ideally better, fresher, better nourished fluid comes in when it rehydrates. It does take again, according to some of the research, there's a lot of debate on this, 24 to 36 hours for it to fully rehydrate after a rolling session.
Oh, okay.
So I thought that was really interesting.
That's longer
So
than most people would think.
That's a lot longer than I thought when I read that. And again, it's only one study and whatever, but it was like, So there seems to be this thing like, and maybe that's an every other day kind of thing that you don't necessarily want to overdo. Because again, there's always overdoing too. Some of our clients are type A's. I'm looking at, you're in Washington, D.C. I'm out in California. And a lot of our clients are like, well, if a little is good, then more is better. And it's not always true, especially with rolling. I often say with rolling, like, when you first start to roll, you'll feel that kind of grittiness, like it's kind of painful prickliness oftentimes, or whatever, just an uncomfortable feeling, gristly. Yeah. And I often say, as soon as that smooths out, you can stop. Like you don't need to keep going. Once you've gotten through that kind of gritty feeling and things are kind of smooth and feeling like comfortable, stop, move on to the next one. So, and I also think for you, like give them a time frame. For a lot of my type A's, I have to give them a time frame. I'm like, put your phone on, give yourself 3 minutes on those hamstrings, or 5 minutes, or whatever it is. Don't go beyond that. But more than one client who's done something particular like a piriformis release or a hip release, who has just, sat on that for an entire series, an entire session.
Grinding on it. Yeah. Just,
thing. Right. And then they wonder why the next day they have sciatica. It's like, okay, this is why. So again, giving them a time frame and making it very specific. And then also just understand that maybe it's not an everyday thing. Maybe they do mobility work and they just kind of move through the area one day. And then they do some more foam rolling work, like, 3 days a week or something like that.
And I'm going to bring up a concept that I use with my clients when it comes to foam rolling. You and I have talked about this. I'm big on using the softer foam rollers a lot of times. There's a time and a place to use both. And I'm going to put it to everyone like this. If you're going to have a massage, you and I both went to massage school. So we both know that there's two types of massage. And I'll ask, when I was doing massage work, I'll say, do you want a therapeutic massage or do you want it to feel good?
Yeah.
Because they're different. They're very different. Am I going to go in with my elbow? Exactly. Or am I going to do more effleurage and more flowing and make it nicey, touchy-feely?
Yeah.
And think of that the same way with your foam rolling. If all you do is the hard foam rolling all the time and just beat on the muscle, it's not going to recover as well as if you might have a session where you're going to go a little deeper. There's spots in my, IT band and my quadricep that I know I need to get at, or else, the lateral tracking issue can become an issue. Or if in my calf or whatnot, that I'm going to want to dive in a little bit more, but that's not every session. The next time I may use the much softer foam roller and just sort of say hi, hey, how you doing? And do a little bit more gentleness, and you get that fluid flow going, and you get a little bit more of that thinking about the sponge action rather than the grinding and digging in.
Then the tissue damage, if you will, or the tissue change.
Exactly. Yeah. So consider both for that client, because you said the type A person. I had a client who was using a lacrosse ball for their piriformis, and they would use it for 10 minutes, 15 minutes at a time. And then they wondered why it got so bruised, that they were in so much pain. And I said, well, no kidding.
Right.
I said, you're basically sitting on a rock.
You just caused tissue damage in an area that you're trying to recover from. Tissue damage is not going to help you here.
Exactly. So in my facility, we have everything from the softest foam roll possible that literally you can squeeze like a sponge to the rock hardest ones. And depending on the day of the week, I'll use one, I'll use a different one. And with clients, it's the same thing. I'll say, you know what, you used that hard one last time. I'm going to have you use this softer one today. And a lot of times my type A's are like, but I don't feel it as much as so.
Right. I don't care.
Still beneficial.
That's not the point today. Right. We're just we're moving. We're stimulating, getting some neurological stimulation in the tissues. We're getting some fluid flow, and we're just saying hello. We're not having a deep conversation. We're not having a therapeutic conversation. We're just saying hello. Like, hey, how are you doing today? Great. How are you doing? Fine. Move on.
Exactly. So I always give the massage thing is like, my wife every now and then, she'll say, would you rub my shoulders? I say, do you want, what kind do you want? And a lot of times she goes, oh, just make it feel good. Okay. I'll go lighter. Sometimes she'll say, no, dig in. I'm like,
Yeah.
Okay, you asked
Okay.
for it.
Here come my thumbs.
Here's the elbow, here's the thumbs, you know. And think of it the same way with our bodies. We don't always want that deepness. Sometimes we want it
Yeah.
to be a little bit more gentle. So just something to
Yeah.
think about.
Absolutely. Now, another thing that I think about in terms of recovery is temperature, hot and cold.
Uh-huh.
And I'm going to throw this out there because there's a lot of discussion about it right now. You know, the ice bath, right? That kind
Yep.
of thing. Um,
Cryotherapy, all of that stuff.
Cryotherapy, all that, and then or is it a hot tub or is it a sauna? Like what things work? And one thing that I will say is there is, I mean, cold therapy is a real thing, and it
Mhm.
really can be incredibly effective. My brother, who was a dancer, is still a dancer actually, a professional dancer. Um, he used to live in when he was dancing, he had an apartment that had a pool, and the pool wasn't heated. This was in California. And he would come home after a long workout or after a long rehearsal, and he would walk in the pool. He would just walk from one end to the other because it was cold, right? It was generally, it
Mhm.
wasn't super cold, but it's probably in the 60s. It was cold, and there was that compression feeling,
Yep.
right? So that combination for him would just decrease all of that pain and discomfort that he might have felt. And I know, for me, one time I was in Zion National Park in Utah, and we were hiking and hiking, hiking for days and days, and it was quite warm, and we're just getting sore from hiking for days and days in the heat. And the last day we were hiking up the Virgin River, which is a cold river, relatively cold river, and we're up to about kind of our waist or so in water, and we're hiking for several miles, like up to our waist or up to our thighs in water. And man, we came out of that and nothing hurt, like
Hmm.
nothing hurt. So those are some things to think about. Now, not everybody wants to put themselves in a dumpster full of ice and water because that's just slightly horrifying, right? I mean, you see professional athletes like that, right? They're literally in
Oh my
essentially
gosh.
a dumpster full of ice and water. But
Yeah.
that kind of thing is really helpful. Or I have clients with things like plantar fasciitis or other kinds of recalcitrant, foot tendinitises, and they would do a contrast bath. So they would have
Mhm.
essentially just a small bucket or whatever with ice and water. So it'd be quite cold. They'd put it in there for as long as they could stand, which might be 10 seconds, might be
Yep.
15, might be a minute. And then they take it out and put it in kind of a room temperature, a slightly warm bath, and they go back and forth.
Yep.
So using hot and cold, that's a little more intense therapeutically, but that really, the cold and the heat really stimulate the circulation in the area. I know there's a lot of debate about cold, and we'll get into that at some point, but it constricts the blood vessels, and then when you come out, it releases that constriction. So the blood really gets pumped through the tissues. And
Mhm.
for a lot of people, that is incredibly helpful for either preventing inflammation from something that they're doing too much of, or for recovery if they're just having some issue going on already that they need to get better.
Yeah, I remember back in the 70s, my dad would take me to the gym he worked out in, and they had an ice plunge.
Yeah.
And I thought that was the dumbest thing. There was no way you couldn't pay me to get into that thing. But then you started seeing more athletes use it. And
Yeah.
lately you see it in, like Gatorade commercials and things like that, where they'll show the
Right.
athletes, doing all these things for recovery as well as drinking their drink. But they'll use those ice baths. And I'm thinking, oh man. But I also understand it from the therapeutic side of things because I believe that ice does help with inflammation. Cold can
Mhm.
definitely help. There's many reasons which you just, said, very eloquently. What's going on. And the thing that I'm going to say for ankles, uh, and I did this myself, I was very dumb. I got a big old 5-gallon bucket and I filled it halfway with ice and then poured water in it and I put my foot in it and I lasted about 3 seconds. And I thought, how do people do this? And I realized that, okay, what works better is to put the water in, put your leg in, and then add the ice.
Yes.
Add
Yeah.
it till it's
Mhm.
cold, till it's almost not quite comfortable that you want to take it out, but you can withstand it, you know, and then wait, and your body gets used to it. Kind of like, I don't know if
Yeah.
you've had this. I'll put an ice pack on something, and then after 5 minutes, I'm like, is it still cold? And I'll touch it with my, oh yeah, it's still cold,
Yes.
but my
Yes.
tissues have gotten used
Absolutely.
to it.
So live like the lobster in the pot.
Yes.
I mean, right? Because it's cold, and the water can be cold if your foot's in there, and then you put in the ice, and it will slowly get colder,
Yep.
right? And your body will accommodate slowly rather than the shock
Yep.
of a true ice bath. And
Yep.
absolutely, like whatever works with that. I think again, I'm not, as any of you know me, and probably when you've heard from these podcasts, I'm not an extremist. I'm not like, this is the only way to do this.
Right.
It's like I find that, just cool water, a little bit of ice, and it can be really helpful. And if I do,
Yep.
and if that's too much, I do ice and heat back and forth. I'll have kind of like just a warm, a sink tap water warm bath on one side, and I'll have my little ice bucket on the other, and I'll just go back and forth and just stimulate that circulation in that area. And this works best for me in the periphery, right? So, my ankles or my wrists or something like that. It's just a little harder to do for a knee or a hip.
Yeah.
But there, that's where you can get into something like, does one of the things I want to bring up is, does a hot tub, for example, work for you or not?
Yeah.
For me, if I immerse myself in hot water, my inflammation goes up.
Yep.
When I was a dancer, I would like say, everybody say, let's go join the hot tub. And I get in the hot tub and I'd come out and it'd be like, I feel much worse.
Yep.
And it would take me a couple of days to recover from the inflammation that came from that level of heat. Other people, it's like, it feels great. For me, it was just heat was not my best tool for recovery. At that point, ice was much better, or, ice was much better. Cool was much better. And other people
Yep.
are different.
Yep. No, absolutely. I think whatever works for you. The other thing I like with the ice bath, and even baths in general,
Mm-hmm.
is if you can stand more of a tepid water rather than cold, like you said, compression.
Yes,
Compression does work.
exactly. Yes.
And I found that, that 5-gallon bucket, when I would fill it, 3/4 full, because my leg's going to take up some space when I put it in, that it fills it almost to the top, and you add the ice on top of that. The compression helped as well
Yes,
as the cold.
exactly. Yes, that's the
So
walking in water thing. Yeah.
yeah, it
Yeah.
really does make a difference. And I would tell clients that if you have a pool, even just sitting in it, if it's your
Yeah.
legs, that you just sit on the steps, the
Yep.
compression can actually help with that. And if you can withstand a little chillier temperature, like your brother did, all the better. And I love the idea of walking in it, because you get the compression, you get the movement, you get, especially when you've been dancing, the range of motion of the ankles and things. Fantastic. Now,
Yeah,
I
he
wanted
found
to
that was
ask,
just the best thing.
yeah, I wanted to ask you, there's now these recovery places you go for recovery. Uh, and, you know, they have a bunch of different tools there. We all know about the percussive massagers. And
Right.
between you and
Yeah.
me, as a massage therapist, former massage therapist, I think that's going a little bit beyond the scope of practice of personal trainers if they don't know what they're doing with it, because you can actually cause
Agreed.
tissue damage if you're
Yeah.
just
Agreed.
pounding on a tendon or an area that, if you don't know what you're doing. Again,
Yeah.
going to massage school, I understand where I'm going to hit this. I know how to use it, a Topoltment device, but I also know I don't want to just bruise the heck out of someone either. So you use it in a certain way that I
Right.
don't think a lot of personal trainers are taught how to do. And if they are, fantastic. But if they're not, you can cause damage. I want to get your opinion on that. But there's also other recovery tools, like these compression things for your legs that you slide your whole leg in and they go all the way up to your thigh or your groin.
Mm-hmm.
And, it squeezes and then releases. And, there's $700 to $1,000, and, various athletic teams use them. And there's a lot of different recovery tools. What do you think of sort of those aspects of recovery?
I mean, I take kind of what we keep saying, which is, does it work for you?
Yeah.
And if I've got to put myself in a compressing sleeping bag and it's going to cost me $700, I'm going to find some other way to do that first, right? Or else
Yeah.
I'm going to try it and make sure it actually works, and whatever. So
Yeah.
there's also just the gimmick quality, like we see all the time. We certainly see in our personal training and Pilates world. Clients love a prop, they love a tool, they love a toy, they love something they have to interact with to, whether it's a foam roller or whether it's a Theragun of whatever kind,
Yep.
or whether it's an ice bucket, whatever. And sometimes I think, try it, and if it works for you, great. I certainly think with compression, I know a lot of people who use just compression stockings or compression leg work, things that go all up the legs or up the arm for different things, because they find that helps them.
Yep.
So, if that works, great. I'm not a big fan of super expensive props like that, because I feel like a lot of this can be gotten so much easier.
Yeah.
Theraguns and that kind of thing, I agree with you. And I've done enough, I've been in the massage world for long enough and read enough about it, know enough about it to know that, like, you can do nothing, right? It can be completely ineffective if you don't know what you're doing, or it can be destructive if you don't know what you're doing, or it can be useful if you have some idea of what you're doing.
Yep.
So, and I agree that most physical, personal trainers, if they don't have any kind of massage background, are not going to have the skills or the refinement to be able to go, okay, we want to work on this attachment, right? We want to work on the belly of the hamstring, or we want to work on where the Achilles tendon comes into the gastroc, or we want to work on whatever that particular area is for that client. Now, you've got that background, I've got that background, and I could certainly teach a client how to use the Theragun effectively, I think, for what they need to do. But I think that's something too to think about.
Yeah.
So,
something else that I just want to make mention here when it comes to recovery, there's a psychological component that I think gets overlooked when we take care of ourselves.
Yes.
When you're doing something beneficial for your body, and if you believe that Theragun is beneficial and you're lightly rubbing it over your skin and you're barely doing anything, but it's stimulating some of the fascia and it's just stimulating the muscle or whatnot, but it feels good afterwards and everything, then go for it. More power to you. You're probably not going to hurt yourself. Are you really doing anything physically? Maybe, maybe not. But if you feel it psychologically and you feel like I'm taking care of myself and your body responds to that, oh, I'm taking care of myself, I'm doing something positive for the long run, I think that can be very beneficial for people.
In fact, traditionally, like, this is the thing. Something has to make more than a 30% improvement to be considered not placebo.
Yeah.
So placebo is very powerful. There was a story that I read a long time ago about a group of people that were actually in jail, and one of the guys was a doctor, and he had no medications. This was some third world jail somewhere, and basically he decided to use water as therapy.
Yeah.
And he would just, people had issues. He'd say, well, you need to drink this much water during this period of time, and he would give them these like water prescriptions, and they would get better. And it wasn't the water. It was the fact that they were consciously taking care of themselves during that process and had a way to do that. So I think that's absolutely true, that, if it feels better, great. But a lot of it is like, I'm taking care of myself now. And I'm consciously doing that. And I'm paying attention to making myself feel better right now. I think those are really, really a critical piece of recovery.
Yeah. So it's just something I wanted to make mention, because let's not overlook that fact that we live in a very high-tech world, and but we are a very high-touch business. So having someone feel good, I stretch everybody out at the end of my session. And part of the reason is almost everybody loves that part of it the most. And for some people, being stretched, while it's not the most pleasant thing in the world, it may be the only time that they have a human connection with a person that day.
Yes, absolutely.
It's maybe the only time in a therapeutic sense, it's the only time that they're taking care of their body, but they're also getting that, physical connection with somebody, putting them through stretching. And that can be incredibly valuable as well.
One thing I'm going to switch that just a bit in our last little few minutes here. One of the things that I often try to help people understand is they have a lot of power in their own hands to make something feel better.
Yes.
And that's the other thing too, is like, yes, it's really great to have somebody else touch you, and that human connection is often very healing all by itself, regardless of what's actually happening in the other level. But it's like, if your shoulder's tight, massage your neck, massage your like, we'll teach people just little self-massage things, massage your shoulder, massage your neck, massage your forearm. And having them understand the power that they have to make themselves feel better is also incredibly powerful, because
Mhm.
so many people are so out of their bodies these days and so feeling like they need an expert to help
Yep.
moderate their relationship to their own body. And the more you can have them moderate their own relationship and take power over their own relationship to their own body, the better off they are ultimately, because you've always got your own hands. You've
Yes.
always got your own ability to release that IT band or to massage that calf or whatever you're doing. So that's also something that I like to
It's
add to.
empowering. It's
It's
incredibly
empowering.
empowering. You know,
Yeah.
I find that a lot of our clients, those who can afford us, can also afford the best doctors and the best physical therapists, and the
Yes.
best this and the
Yes.
best that, and they're looking for someone else to fix them.
Yes.
Instead of taking the power into their own hands, and when they
Yep.
realize that just by doing this, for a few
Yeah.
minutes, or doing a stretching, routine that we teach them, they
Yep.
feel better. Or I'll teach
Yes.
them a cervical reset or something at their desk, and they'll think, "Oh, that felt great." It's
Yes.
putting the power in their hands, and it can be incredibly valuable. So I like that
Yep.
you brought that up.
Because that brings up compliance too, right? If they can make themselves feel better, and if this makes them feel better, that just means they're more likely to do it, and that means that they're more likely to stay better. And it's a positive thing all the way around.
Absolutely. We covered a lot of things in our recovery session today.
We did. We talked about rest, myofascial release, ice, mobility, hands-on stuff, heat, just all kinds of things. So here's some options and some ways to think about recovery, and some ways to really make it active and make it part
Mhm.
of your teaching with your clients, or make it part of your own routine if you're not a trainer. Like, it's just an important thing to think about.
Yeah. And I think as trainers, anybody who's in the movement business, we have a tendency to want to move. You
Yes,
know,
we do.
we
Our
want to
clients may
do
not.
that. We don't
Yeah.
necessarily want to sit there with a foam roller or to do the boring stuff and our clients are like this too. They want to
Mhm.
get going and exercise and do that.
Do something. Want to do something.
Exactly. But we have to convince ourselves and them that this is doing something and it's very valuable to your long-term success.
Yes, exactly, exactly. And that understanding that you can't just keep pushing. I mean, I work with a lot of Olympic athletes over the years, and one of the critical things they do is overtrain.
Yes.
They train and then they just start to break down, and then they feel like they have to just train more because they're breaking down, and it's like it's often very, very hard with them to say stop. You have to recover, and we're
Yep.
going to moderate things so that you're not overtraining. You're not, just tearing your tissues up.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you for joining us today for Moving Conversations. Hopefully, if you haven't and you've only been listening to us, check out the YouTube channel. I'm going to put the link in the bio and all of that, so you'll have that. Also, it'll be on our social media and our link uh, thing, so you can always go over to that channel and watch any of these. I'd be really curious to hear what people think about being able to see us actually talk and talk to each other on opposite coasts. That's always a fun thing. If you like what we're doing, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. That way it'll be in your inbox every week. You don't have to think about it. I'm learning a lot more about social media and what's important. Do us a favor, give us a good review, share. I find that that's actually the way for us to get more notice out there as well. So if you can share it on your social medias, all the better for us. We'd really appreciate that. And you can always drop us a line at movingconvos@gmail.com. And if you have anything you want us to cover, we'd love to hear from you, or even just, you want to tell us what you think, let us know. We'd appreciate it. And until next time, just keep moving.
Guys.